The silence over the Red Sea broke without warning as the pre-dawn horizon fractured into a mosaic of hundreds of low-frequency thrums, signaling the approach of a high-volume saturation attack. From the jagged coastlines of the Yemeni interior and the mobile launch platforms hidden within the mountainous littoral zones of the Iranian mainland, the environmental reality was one of sudden, clinical mobilization. The sharp scent of heavy propellant and salt spray filled the air as a massive swarm of Shahid series loitering munitions transitioned from storage canisters into an aggressive, multi-axis offensive formation. Far above the surface of the water, the humid atmosphere vibrated with the presence of these low-flying, carbon fiber frames, while on the flight deck of the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, the sheer scale of the deployment began to register on the Aegis radar arrays as a wall of kinetic energy. On the ground at the regional monitoring stations, the data indicated a coordinated flight path designed to overwhelm the primary defensive batteries of the carrier strike group, creating a sensory environment of constant, rhythmic engine noise and the distant, cold flashes of early interceptor ignitions. This was not simply a routine harassment of maritime shipping. It was the most comprehensive attempt to sink or disable a United States nuclear-powered aircraft carrier in the history of the modern Middle East. According to Iranian state media and official statements released by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' High Command in Tehran, the IRGC has officially deployed its largest drone swarm in history, consisting of over 300 specialized loitering munitions and cruise missiles, specifically to target the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. Iranian officials claimed that the operation, designated True Promise 3, utilized advanced swarm intelligence where individual drones communicate to identify and exploit gaps in the American carrier's radar coverage. Military spokesman in Tehran stated that the primary objective of this mobilization is to demonstrate the obsolescence of Western naval power in the face of asymmetrical domestic technology, asserting that the swarm successfully bypassed the initial outer-tier defenses of the Fifth Fleet. Symbolically, the Iranian leadership has framed these events as a direct enforcement of their regional red lines, claiming that the presence of the Eisenhower is a primary source of instability and that the IRGC maintains the sovereign right to neutralize any perceived threat within its strategic depth. Iranian officials said that the drones reached their intended coordinates and that the strike serves as a warning that no high-value naval asset is beyond the reach of their growing aerospace infrastructure. But the story quickly became far more complicated. Before we break down the specific technical capabilities of the Shahid 136 drones and the strategic layout of the USS Eisenhower's multi-layered defensive umbrella, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the latest dramatic developments shaping global geopolitics. We are constantly monitoring the shifting tides of international power to ensure we can track these high-stakes escalations as they happen, and your support allows us to continue delivering these deep-dive analytical reports. According to U.S. Central Command and senior defense officials in Washington, the operation was viewed as a significant but ultimately failed attempt to penetrate a multi-layered defensive network that remains fully operational. U.S. authorities stated that while the IRGC deployment was historically large, the majority of the drones were successfully intercepted by a combination of F/A-18 Super Hornets, the Phalanx close-in weapon system, and the ship-borne Standard Missile 2 interceptors. To understand the scale of this counter-narrative, one must look at the technical mechanisms of naval air defense. The U.S. Navy utilizes the Aegis Combat System to create a digital shield using computerized radar to track hundreds of targets simultaneously and assigning specific interceptors to neutralize them before they clear the territorial horizon. U.S. media reported that the USS Eisenhower sustained no damage and that the carrier strike group effectively conducted a kinetic clearance of the Red Sea airspace, with analysts noting that the drone's low speeds and lack of electronic shielding made them highly vulnerable to electronic warfare jamming. Analysts noted that the interception rate exceeded 95%, suggesting that the swarm intelligence claimed by Tehran was unable to overcome the localized processing power of the Fifth Fleet's defensive arrays. Between these narratives lies a complex reality that analysts are still working to understand. Why do the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower and this specific drone swarm carry such immense strategic weight in the current global standoff? The answer lies in the geography of maritime power and the vital role of the aircraft carrier as the primary mobile airfield for American power projection in the Middle East. By targeting the Eisenhower, the IRGC has effectively attempted to strike the nervous system of Western regional surveillance and strike capabilities, as this carrier facilitates the majority of the air patrols that protect global trade through the Bab el-Mandab Strait. Attacking or threatening a Nimitz-class carrier carries strategic weight because it forces the international community to acknowledge a new reality where relatively inexpensive, mass-produced technology can challenge billion-dollar capital ships. Connected to the broader geopolitical confrontation, the inclusion of a carrier strike group in the IRGC's target list is a signal that Tehran is no longer satisfied with proxy engagements and is willing to risk direct, state-on-state naval combat to force a shift in the regional security architecture. The message was clear. Iran has the intelligence, the reach, and the physical mass to threaten the central pillar of American naval presence at a moment's notice. The cascading consequences of this drone deployment began within minutes of the initial radar detection, triggering an escalation pyramid that is currently reshaping the global order. First, the immediate military reaction saw the deployment of additional F-15E Strike Eagle squadrons from bases in Jordan and the United Kingdom to the Red Sea, while the U.S. Navy reportedly moved a secondary destroyer task force into the northern Bab al-Mandab to provide a deeper defensive cushion. Second, regional governments reacted with a mixture of quiet support and public alarm. Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates immediately placed their air defense networks on high alert, with Omani authorities attempting to mediate an emergency diplomatic off-ramp to prevent a total closure of the regional waterways. Third, the global market and economic reaction was instantaneous, as oil prices surged by nearly 9% in overnight trading, with Brent crude crossing the $90 mark amid fears of a prolonged maritime shutdown. That spike in energy costs has consequences far beyond the borders of the Red Sea. Fourth, diplomatic channels reached a fever pitch as NATO allies expressed a cautious recognition of the threat, yet simultaneously pressured Washington to avoid a kinetic retaliatory strike against the Iranian mainland that could trigger a wider regional war. Finally, the domestic political reaction in the United States has seen a sharp divide, with the White House briefing congressional leaders on the necessity of maritime deterrence, while critics question the long-term risk of keeping high-value assets within the range of Iranian-made swarm technology. The Iranian government maintains that this drone deployment was a successful demonstration of its ability to neutralize American naval superiority and protect its regional interests. The United States maintains that the operation was an illegal provocation that only served to validate the effectiveness of its multi-layered air defense systems. As the debris from the intercepted loitering munitions settles across the Red Sea, the international community finds itself at a crossroads where the line between a symbolic show of force and a full-scale naval war has become dangerously thin. The sudden presence of hundreds of Iranian-made drones in the primary shipping lanes, combined with this latest attempt on a U.S. carrier, has created a power vacuum where a single miscalculation by a junior commander could lead to a catastrophic chain reaction across the global economy. The reality of asymmetrical technology challenging conventional naval doctrine marks a fundamental shift in the 21st century power balance. Will this drone swarm remain an isolated incident, or is it the beginning of something far larger? Stay tuned for further updates as this situation continues to develop. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the latest dramatic geopolitical developments shaping the world.